If Chrollo steals your Nen ability, can you just make another one? Let's talk about it. Also, before we dive in today, this is extremely relevant because I've got it on good authority that Chrollo plans on stealing TikTok, which means none of us are going to be able to use it anymore. So be sure to follow your boy on those other platforms. Also, huge shout out to Gabriel for the question. Thank you for the support, man. Okay, so first of all, yes, I do believe that if Chrollo steals your Nen ability, you still have the potential to create new Nen abilities, and I think that for a few different reasons. The first is because of how his stealing actually works. We know that he has to meet several different conditions in order to get an ability in his book. One of such is that he needs to see that ability in action. And that's important because it means he's only stealing singular facets of people's Nen. He doesn't get to steal the sum total of somebody's abilities just by meeting the conditions for one of them. For example, let's take Kurapika, right? Let's say that Chrollo was trying to steal his Judgment Chain, and we know that Kurapika even used Judgment Chain on Chrollo, so he's seen it, right? And let's just assume that Chrollo meets all the other conditions and he successfully steals it. It wouldn't make sense for Chrollo then to also have access to Chain Jail and the Dowsing Chain, etc., right? Because those are completely separate abilities. It would be really overpowered if he just got them all at once by only meeting the conditions for one. And it's not just Kurapika, right? There are a lot of characters in the series with multiple Hatsus, like Castro and Hisoka. We've got the Tiger Bite Fist and the Doppelganger, and Bungee Gum and Texture Surprise. If Chrollo met the conditions to steal one of those, it doesn't really make sense that he would just automatically get the other one as well. So with all that being the case, I then think it logically follows that if somebody only has one ability and that ability gets stolen, there's nothing preventing them from creating a new ability and then using that. Very much the same way that Kurapika or Hisoka or Castro could still use their other abilities if one got stolen. But now let's talk about the other side of this, because yes, I think it's possible, but I think it's far easier said than done, and most characters in the Hunter x Hunter verse probably wouldn't have the willpower, skill, or determination to sit there and develop a brand new Hatsu from scratch, because it would take a lot of work. It's just like the real world, right? For example, let's say you're a chess god and you've devoted your entire life to mastering this game. If one day you wake up and your memory's just been erased of chess, sure, you could learn a new game, but it's going to take you so much work to get back to a similar level of skill. It's the same thing with a Nen ability. Yeah, you can start over, but it's gonna suck. And speaking of Castro and Hisoka, we have a really good example of this memory overload thing that Gabriel brought up. So if you don't recall, during their fight, Hisoka basically blasts this guy for wasting his Nen development on this doppelganger body double technique because it's not his main Nen affinity, right? So he basically wasted all of this time, practice, and dedication developing that technique. And he basically says, you know, in order to create an entire double of yourself, that is taking up so much of your brain power, you now don't have the energy to do these other things. So it was a superfluous, use of your memory. And so that's why I'm beating you right now. So because of that exchange, a lot of people have cited that, brain overload or memory overload is the reason characters don't just keep creating Hatsus. And I do think that's true, at least to some extent, because just like, again, in real life, you certainly just don't have the brain capacity to learn and master everything, right? It's just not realistic. We're not built that way. So you have to spend time, practice, dedication, focusing on something in order to get good at it. The same is true with Hatsus, right? So while we do have genius savants who are capable of making multiple techniques and holding all of that information, other people on the street aren't going to be able to do that, right? And I will say, at least in Kurapika and Chrollo's case, they also have things that are allowing them, or at least helping them to do that. With Kurapika, it's the scarlet eyes. With Chrollo, it's the fact that he has all these conditions and the book that's actually storing the techniques, as opposed to him just having created all of those techniques himself. So to circle back around here, yes, I think if Chrollo steals your Nen ability, you do have the potential to create another. It's just that not everyone is going to be capable of that.